And aside from the fact that that all my cash, all my stocks, uh, the corporation that I control, the cash that's in the bank, the banks are going to my cash. The banks are going to close, and my cash is going to inflation, whatever. Cash will incinerate, it will dissipate. So these guys are worried, and their corporations. And if I was them, man, 1% of 99% of the world, I wouldn't only be worried about my assets. I'd be worried about my ass. Okay, excuse the word, because it's bound a lot of desperate, hungry people. It's bound to create a popular revolution. I mean, right now, we'll see it probably within the next 6 months to a year, but social chaos is going to kick in. Violence, violent crime and robberies. People that never would have done that, even thought of doing that, but their kids are hungry at home. Okay? I'm not saying it's right, but people, they could be lynched. I could be lynched. Okay, I'm making believe that I'm a billionaire. I'd be afraid to get lynched in the next couple years when everything comes crashing down. What I want a mansion for? What do I want? There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to escape to. There's nowhere to escape to unless you want to live simple, live off the land, like what I'm planning right now. But these guys aren't simple. These guys are maniacs. The Chinese aren't worried. The Chinese aren't worried because they. I've got some friends that were engineers that were helping in that 10% a year growth that the Chinese have been experiencing, and at least until last decade. But those engineers were building those mega cities, and they they told me that since 20 years ago, okay, that there was propaganda. You know, in China they call propaganda exactly what it is. In in this part of the world, no, not this part of the world. Here they call, if you want to get a degree in marketing, it's not just marketing, it's propaganda and marketing. Okay, they haven't lied here or tried to change change the linguistics for social engineering. So here it's still called propaganda and marketing. In Latin America, it's called propaganda and marketing. They haven't taken that word propaganda because that word was assassinated probably by the U.S. and the allied countries because for business, it's better to call things marketing. But anyhow, these engineers told me that in the rural areas, even in the rural areas, that there was propaganda posters. Until about 5 years ago or till today, it's probably, of course, via is probably via smartphones. Everybody's got it. Most people have smartphones over there. But there was posters, propagandas, and now digital with warnings. Understand that capitalism is but an experiment for China. But within the following years, if you see some concerns around the world, do not worry, because the CCP is taking care of its citizens by buying and creating a gold standard. And we also suggest that every Chinese citizen, because they've lifted up 900 million people from poverty and up towards the middle class, at least. Many billionaires have become billionaires with their transformation. So it says, propaganda says, suggests for its citizens to also purchase gold. Okay? And I see it as an environmentalist. I see it as an environmentalist. They are, I was interviewed by Engineers Without Borders. We had a mining disaster, and the mining disaster was just to poison the river so they can go in there and get, because it's not only the Chinese. I mean, for about 20 years, the whole world, especially when these sanctions started with Russia and Iran. Iran's a big gold buyer. Russia buys a lot of gold from right here nearby Venezuela because of the sanctions. The dollar is not dominating anymore, and I can explain that if you guys in the question and answer. But there's a reason for that, because it's not the dominant currency anymore, because petroleum, it has to do with petroleum. Petroleum isn't pegged to the dollar anymore. The relations with Saudi Arabia aren't the same, and so that deal that Henry Kissinger did in the 70s is just not it's not kosher anymore. It's not working. But these countries, like Iran and China, of course, and countries like Russia, they're dealing in their currency, and they're buying and creating the gold standard, trying to create the gold standard. But it's not everybody has enough for the currency that circulates in each countries, much less with quantitative easing. So, but China did that. China prepared, okay? So they're not worried about a popular revolution because it's an authoritarian state, and you guys know what happened in Tiananmen Square. They're a dictatorship. But these guys that live in the U.S. and in France and in what we call supposedly free countries, free enough, they've got to be worried about losing everything that they have. But they're dictators too. Okay, let's talk about these preppy guys. Let's talk about Facebook. These aren't nice people, okay? This is the only thing. I can only tell you observations, okay? But I observe. Facebook, okay? When my daughter, I saw her getting a Facebook account, I said, sweetheart, please don't do that, you know? And I didn't know this at the time, but it just didn't seem right, her putting up her pictures, and I knew about data collection and that type of stuff. But I didn't know that, first of all, the genesis of it was Mark Zuckerman in Harvard putting the pictures of she's a girl, it's my daughter, it's my baby. I didn't find out about this until after. But whenever anything starts with such evil purposes, because I don't know if you know the story, but it started by him putting up a page, and talking bad about the girls that wouldn't go out with him. So that's just evil from the start, and then he screwed two buddies of him in Harvard. He stole the program supposedly, and then there's a Brazilian young Brazilian man that was his partner, and he stole from him too. So these guys, Microsoft, okay, Microsoft is, he's screwed. They're actually autocratic. Okay, they're the dictators of their company. These guys have, if you put everything in a pot, Google, Silicon Valley, and everywhere they've spread around the world. If you put those companies and they put all their money inside a pot, it would be a big pot, and it would actually be the founding fathers of the richest nations. They have more money than nations, okay, in many nations. So, and they did this the same way every empire. They created their empire, okay? They dictate in their empire. And they did this the same way every other empire did it, by plundering, by invading other territories, in their case, information, by monopolizing, which is the case of the corporations. There's corporations since the Roman Empire, okay? And part of that greed, of the greedy corporations, is what brought down the Roman Empire. And a lot of it is what's given the UK the bad rap that it has right now as a cruel colonial power. So corporations have been around for a long time. They're protected, okay? They don't have to obey the same moral ethics or laws of, they've got limited corporations, LLCs. So they're an entity that are formed to do bad things. They're not to do good things. So anyways, these guys, they created those empires just like a country created their empire, by monopolization and plundering, stealing, even technology, and selling personal data. So there are the founding fathers, and this is the kind of people that are on the World Economic Forum. So, like I mentioned, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't believe in conspiracy theories, okay? But conspiracies are conspiracy is more than one person sitting around a table and deciding to screw people, and these guys screw people. So conspiracies exist. I'm just like a fanatic about anything. I have to have information. I have to have lived one. I had to have been a victim of one, which I have, and everyone has been a victim. Conspiracies, but theories, no. Fanatical stuff, no. Very well analyzed and through the senses. And that's what they've done. That's what they've done. And they're part of this group. So we have to, in my opinion, a reset. It'll be rebranded, okay? It'll be rebranded because they're not so good. We shouldn't even give them so much credit, okay? Because, like, the minute the pandemic came out, it's almost comical. But you had that old man, Klaus Schwab, Gutierrez, okay, which is communist, the UN secretary. You had this lady from the IMF. All these important, in not so ethical organizations, and they made commercials. They made commercials. Let me see if I remember. This pandemic is a tremendous opportunity for the Great Reset and the creation of a global economy and a sustainable planet. But these guys aren't very photogenic. I mean, I remember the commercial. It was like they did that like really quick because they were happy about the pandemic, and they're not photogenic people, you know. It was actually funny. So these guys, there will be rebranding, lots of rebranding, and when you have to rebrand a product too much, in this situation, an idea, an agenda, then it's an opportunity for us to create an alliance because, look, we do not have to consent to the Great Reset, okay? And to say a tech word like they invented the Great Reset, we through alliances now, and that's why I was happy to do this and anxious to do this, is we got a small window for us, we the people, to program our own future, our reset, not their reset, because it's just I can't get into people's hearts, but the people that want to do that for us may not be ethical, and they're certainly not moralist.